Hey everyone, this is Ian C. Welcome to Board Game Addict. And today's episode, we're going to be doing a how-to and review of the latest game that I unboxed for you on the channel, which is Back to the Future, Back in Time. So the game has a lot of moving pieces to it, and so the first thing you want to think about is, as you can see, this is a lot of pieces, and this is only representing 2 players. If there were 4 players, you would need a bigger table. So you need a big table as it is. So think about that first. You need to be able to put all these pieces out and have them relatively close to everybody, and enough room for all of them. So where do you start? Well, let's start with the setup first, and then I'm going to go with the setup, and then I'm going to explain the objectives of the game, and then we'll talk about how you achieve those objectives. The very first thing you want to do is you kind of want to pick your character. And so for this example, I'll be using Doc Brown and Marty McFly for the example. Probably mostly I'll just be using Marty McFly, but I might be occasionally drawing upon the Doc Brown character. The other 2 characters, because it's 2 to 4 player game, are Einstein and Jennifer. And you want to think about which character you want to do, because each of them do have a special ability. Okay, so as you can see here, that they'll tell you what the special ability is, and it'll become more important later. Okay, so after you've chosen who you want to be, the next thing you want to do is you want to pick your power tiles. Now you're going to get a raft of power tiles. These blue power tiles right here, they just go off to the side, okay? So you can put them in 2 stacks or whatever, just keep them handy. You'll be drawing upon these power tiles later. Just for now, put them off to the side. The power tiles you'll use for your character will match the color of your character. So obviously orange for Marty McFly. And you will see on this thing as well that there are 5 empty spaces that are white and 3 that are orange. Later in the game, as the game progresses and as you resolve different challenges, you'll be able to draw up to 3 more power tiles, which you then can use. Okay, so you take these power tiles and you basically turn them over face up onto your board here, okay? And they each represent actions that you can do throughout the game, which I will get to momentarily. The next thing you want to do is you want to take the figures that you decide you're going to be, Doc Brown or Marty McFly, and you've placed them at the beginning of the game in Times Square, or the Town Square, Town Square. The next thing you want to do is you want to take this figure, which is the Biff figure, and you put him at the clock tower. And that's how you set your figures up in the game. Okay, there are 2 more figures that you have to be aware of, and they're on the board at all times, no matter who's playing, and that's the George character and the Lorraine character, and they go at their houses. Okay, so Lorraine goes on her house, and George goes on her house. Okay, so after that, what you want to do is you want to place the parts to the DeLorean that you need to pick up on their appropriate places. So there are 3, and they come in the game as well. All right, so there are 3, and on the card itself, it'll tell you where to put it. So this DeLorean cable goes to Hill Valley High, which is right there. You just place it on the board. It's big enough you can place it anywhere on the board. The gasoline goes on the South Shops, which is right here, and then the DeLorean part hook goes at the clock tower, which is right here. The other thing you want to do is you also want to set your clock tower up, your dice clock tower, which you roll the dice in here and the dice come out the bottom. However, me being an idiot, I broke it. So you don't have to have this, but I set it up there. I broke a part of it. I accidentally bent it backwards instead of bending it forward, and so you place it there. Okay, the last thing you need to do for the setup, as far as the board is concerned, is you need to look at these opportunity cards. So you get these opportunity cards out, you shuffle them up, you put them down, and you draw 3 opportunity cards, which I've already done. And they tell you where to put the opportunity. So this opportunity card it says George's house, and they all have a place to put it on there. So you just place 3 opportunity cards, and they reward you as you resolve these issues. So if you decide in your turn to take this opportunity to do the challenge of the opportunity, it will show you what you have to do for the opportunity, and then it'll also tell you the rewards you get for resolving that opportunity. Okay, so next, that's as far as what needs to go. Oh, I forgot one more crucial part. Forgive me. That's the DeLorean. So the DeLorean goes on the DeLorean spot, okay? So it'll show you right there at the very beginning of the DeLorean spot. So you've got 3 opportunity cards. You've got your figures that you're playing. You've got Biff, you've got Lorraine, and you've got George. And then you have your parts of the DeLorean that need to be set up, and that's what you need for this board. And then you have this for yourself. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is you have to assemble the love meter. And the love meter comes with a white cube. And as George and Lorraine fall in love, as you do love challenges, it goes up, and you want to get it into these hearts right here. I'll show you that in just a minute. But the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the picture is face up, because as you go through your challenges and as you complete it, if it's not done correctly, you have to turn this over, representing that these people are being erased from time, just like in the movie. The other thing you have to have out are your movement cards, and just put those in a pile by themselves. And then your item cards, which represent extra actions that you can take. Your Biff knockout tokens, which are 3 of them. Your trouble cards, which is there's trouble level 1, trouble level 2, and trouble level 3. And your dice as well. And the final thing you want to do is you want to get your tracker card out and get that ready, okay? So your tracker has up to 2 to 4 players. It'll show you. So on this side of the tracker, it's 3 players. And on this side of the tracker, it's 2 to 4 players. And so if you have 3 people, you'd use this side of the tracker. If you have 2 to 4 people, you use this side of the tracker. And here's your tracker cube. And you place your tracker cube on whatever, wherever it is. So it says 2 players right there. And so you would start with 2 players. And that is how you set the game. After you set the game up, you're now ready to play, and you just kind of pick arbitrarily who goes first. You can roll a dice or pick a number. It doesn't really matter who goes first, but then after that, it kind of goes clockwise in order. But if you're only playing two players, of course, you just go back and forth and you arbitrarily pick what you do. Okay, so let's talk about the objectives of the game. Here are the objectives. The first objective you want to think about is you want to make sure that Lorraine and George McFly are in love. And so by having them be in love, this cube moves up to the hearts, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But you want it to be in these 3 heart areas right here. So that's objective number 1. You want George and Lorraine in love. So that's one of the main things that you have to think about. They have to be in love in order to win the game. The second thing you need to do is you need to pick up all the parts to the DeLorean that are broken and place them at Doc Brown's house. That's the other thing you have to do, get all the parts for the DeLorean. And the third thing you have to do is you have to get the DeLorean all the way to the South Shops. And this is the last place you can see on the board that there's the little DeLorean with the little lines on all the way to Doc's house and then all the way up to South Shop. So once these people are in love, once you have all the parts to the DeLorean that are broken that you need, and then once you have the DeLorean all the way up to the South Shop, the last DeLorean place, and you do all that before this reaches exactly November 12th, 1959, 10:04 p.m. If it reaches before 10:54 and you don't have all that done, you lose the game. Okay, so you have to get that done before 10:54 p.m. So they have to be in love, and your car has to be in the right place. And in order for your car to be in the right place, you have to have picked up all the parts to this game. Okay, so let's talk then. Let's do a little mock game where I'll show you how this is played. That goes to Hill Valley. Okay, this goes to the South Shops, and this goes to the Clock Tower. Let's talk about the rules of the game and how to play. So you'll notice here, it tells you kind of what to do. You start here on the turn tracker, and the turn tracker shows a trouble card and a movement card. Notice that, trouble card and a movement card. And so it says trouble level 1. And so what you would do, the very first thing you would do is you have to resolve the tracker before you can make movements. And those are the two things you have to do: resolve the tracker and then make movements. So the tracker, the trouble card for the tracker says level 1. And so these have different levels on it, and it says what to do, and it says where to put this. So this has a trouble situation, that's the word I'm looking for, that will haunt you during this game, that will impede you during this game, and it says on the North Shops. Okay, so you put that on the North Shop, and that'll affect you the whole game until it's replaced with something else. So that's the South Shop, and that's the North Shop. So that'll be there. So you want to resolve that. But that's the first thing you got to do, is do that. And the second thing is then it says, so do the movement card, right? And so you take a movement card, and the movement cards are very basically self-explanatory. So this card says, move Lorraine clockwise 2 spaces, and then you see how it gives you 2 biffs right here? Okay, so it says move Lorraine clockwise 2 places. So you move here, 1, 2, and they can move anywhere on the board orthogonally, but you can't move diagonally. And if you notice here on the board, George McFly, Lorraine, and Biff cannot be in town square, so they only can move around. Okay, so now why is this important? Okay, so let me explain this. So you want them to be in love. It starts at 0, right? Okay, in order for them to be in love, they have to be on the same house. They have to be on the same square, sorry, anywhere here. They can be on the square anywhere here. Your character or somebody's character in the game has to be with them. And then you have to take your turn to roll to move up the love meter. And they can't be with Biff. If Biff is there, they can't fall in love. You can't do a love challenge. Okay, so you want them together. Well, how do you get them together? Well, this is why you have these movement cards. So obviously, if I'm here, or sorry, if Lorraine's here and it said move this clockwise 2, well, then that's them further apart. So, you know, that's not working in your favor. All right, so we just had that happen right there, the 2 movement cards. Now look at the Biff cards. Okay, so Biff, it says 2 Biff cards. Now Biff will move either toward Lorraine to interfere with the love challenge, or towards George McFly, whoever's closer. In the case that they're the same distance apart, Biff always moves towards Lorraine. So now look at this. See how it says 2 Biffs? So it had Lorraine move clockwise twice. So Lorraine's house, I moved clockwise twice, and 2 Biffs. Now that means Biff gets to move towards Lorraine twice. But you can see that there's only 1 space to move Lorraine in, right? So you only have 1 space. Well, what happens if there's 2 Biffs? Well, this is where things get darn right tricky. What happens is if there's another Biff and he doesn't move, like, well, let's say he was over here, well, then he would just move 2, right, to there. But he's right here, so there's this. So you got to resolve the second Biff card. Well, every time that happens, the love meter moves down 1. So you don't want them together, okay? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them away from each other and together. All right, so let's talk about your movements now. So now that we have resolved the turn tracker, now let's talk about what you're going to do. And this brings us to your power card. Now you can roll up to, or you can resolve up to all these power cards. Every time you resolve it, you have to turn it over until your next turn. Okay, so you have to totally turn this over until your next turn. That represents. And you can take up to as many as you want during the game. You have 5 actions that you can do, and each one represents a movement. So for example, look at this. It says I can roll this dice, which I'll get to in a moment, but it also says I can move up to 3 spaces. Now your characters can escort Lorraine or George, but not both. So for example, let's say I wanted to get Biff and her away from, get Lorraine away from Biff, so I decide to do this one, right? I move up to 3 spaces, so I turn this over. So I am in town square, so 1, 2, and now I get to take her to 3. See that? So I get to take her away from Biff. Now the other thing is that Marty McFly has the ability to draw Lorraine toward her 2 spaces, and it doesn't count. So let's say, for example, Marty was with George already and Lorraine's here. Well, this doesn't count as a movement of mine. This is a special movement. I can automatically bring Lorraine up to 2 spaces. Or let's say Lorraine was here and Marty was here, and I wanted to use this, okay? So then I could go 1, 2, and then take McFly with me to 3. Okay, so once they're together and Biff is not with them, you want to do an influence love challenge, okay? So that's what the rest of these are for. Now notice here, watch this. See, this has a love roll there. Okay, so that's a love roll. So that means I can turn one of these over and roll this 1 dice. Okay. However, each dice has its own special ability, but notice that on this dice they also have, see how they also have a lightning? A lightning represents a wild. And so I could roll them all if I wanted to. I've got 2 blue ones, and I've got a love one, and I've got a yellow one. So I can roll 2 blue ones, a love one, and I think it had a green one, no, and a yellow one. I could roll all those in my, now I've just turned over, so as soon as I roll them and we resolve that, my turn's over and it goes to the next person. So you might not necessarily want to do that as the game goes on. But let me just show you how this works. I want them to fall in love, right? Okay, please fall in love. They're way away from Biff. And so I roll them into the clock tower and they all come out. Now this is how this works. So this dice was a free one. So that makes this move up. This makes this move up from a -1 now because Biff interfered in that example. So let's just say it was on 0. I can move this up 1. But notice this, I have a Biff card, and that draws Biff 1 step closer to the 2, okay? And then if they're already close enough, it would move that tracker down again, okay? But he's not for the sake. Now, look at the other 2. The other 2 don't have a Biff, and they also don't have a wild card, so I can actually roll them again. I can roll them as many times as I want, but you got to be careful because you might get Biff, right? So I would, oh look, see? I rolled 2 wild cards, no Biffs. I get to move this up 2 more times. So that's really cool. So, but now my turn is over. So that's how you do a love challenge. Let's talk about other challenges that you can do, because there are different things that you can do. Okay, so now that you have that understanding, where's the other blue one? All right, let's talk about the DeLorean, because the DeLorean has to get to Doc's house first, and it can't leave Doc's house until you pick up all 3 of these parts. Once you pick up all 3 of these parts, then you can move it up to the South Park so that it can get charged there. So how do you do that? How do you get the DeLorean to Doc's house first of all? Well, the first thing is you have to, let's move George back to George and Lorraine back to Lorraine. And let's just say, for example, that let's say, for example, that Marty McFly is at the where the DeLorean is. Okay, so you notice that, let's say it's my turn, okay? So notice that I have 1 roll there, right? Okay, so that the yellow one is the DeLorean. It makes the DeLorean go. You can see the go. You can also see that it has a lightning, which represents a free move, and it also has 2 go. So if you roll that one, that's pretty good. But again, what if I want to make it move all the way around, all the way down? Well, I can use all my spaces, all my power cards if I want to use them. I can use all my power cards because anytime I get lightning on any one of them that I roll, it's a free move. It's a wild card. So let's just say I want to do, let's just say I'm over here and I want to get to the DeLorean. Well, I would, after I resolve my turn tracker, that's the first thing you always got to do, I decide to take one of these and move 3 spaces. So I go 1, 2, 3. Now I'm in the school parking lot along with that. Now what I want to do is I want to maybe take 3 of my turns and roll up to 3 times. And so I get, so you see how it's 2 blue ones? So I turn the 2 blue ones over, I get 2 dice, and I have a yellow one, so I get 1 yellow dice in hopes that the 2 blue ones will turn up on the lightning so that they're free, and this will turn up here, okay? So now here's how you work it. You go, boom, you rolled it, uh-oh, I got a biff. Biff, oh, I got 2 biffs. So biffs are stable, they can't roll anymore. So now Biff gets to move 2 times to, now he's in Lorraine's presence. That's not good because it's gonna interfere with them. Now look what I have. I've got 1 of these. I can roll this again, but I hope I don't get a Biff, because if I get a Biff and he's in Lorraine's presence, then the love meter moves down. So I roll that again and uh-oh, I got a Biff. And so now the love meter moves down 1. Okay, I messed that up. But for the sake of example, let's just say, sorry here. For the sake of example, let's just say I rolled this right here. I got 3 lightnings. Okay, so this is a free one, this is a free one, this is a free one. And let's just actually say, for example, that I got this. Let's just say, for example, I rolled that. So I can move the DeLorean now 4 spaces. 2 for this one, 1, 2, and then 2 for each one of these. 1, 2, okay? Now I can't move the DeLorean again until I'm in the same space. I can't roll these again. I would have to use one of my cards and move over 1 space to roll again to get the DeLorean all the way to Doc Brown's house. So that's how you get the DeLorean to Doc Brown's house, okay? So each one does this. Each person has they have their own special ones. All right, let's move on here and talk about how to get, let's say for example, we've already got it to Doc Brown's house, but I need to pick up these hooks, the hook, the cable, and the gasoline. Well, my character, whoever it is, has to be on, and I'm going to switch characters here. I'll do the Doc Brown character just so you can see something different here. Okay, so Doc Brown, so I've got these little yellow ones here, or green ones, sorry, and these are like that. Okay. All right, so if I'm Doc Brown, the first thing I have to do is I have to get to where these parts are. And then you see how it says on there, how it's got that little symbol. That means I have to roll that dice that way. So I'm Doc Brown. I am 1 space away from Hill Valley. To get this, I'm 1 space away from this hook. So I move, let's say I take my up to 3. Now, if you move once and that's where you want to go, you can't use your other 2. So this is done. If I go like this and then I move there, well, I have to roll that right there, which again, look at all the chances I have. I've got 1 of these, but again, I've also got all these other ones. And if I get a lightning on them, then I get that card. Okay. So let's just say, for example, I decide to take 2 of these, and it's the yellow one and the green one. So I take the yellow one and the green one, and then I roll. Well, once again, if there's any Biff cards, If there's any Biff characters, I have to set that off to the side, and then Biff gets to move. Well, then the love track, because he's already here, would go down one. Okay, so you have to be careful of that. But let's just say, for example, that I get a wild card too. So I get a Biff and a wild card. Well, I resolve the Biff dice the way it was shown, and then I get to, then I get this, because it only took one of them. So I got that, and that goes there. And each one has their own one. So here's the hook. So the hook actually has 3 of those. So that's a pretty tough one to get. You have to do 3 of those, and hopefully you're not going to get any Biff cards. So you have to get all those there. That one has 2 of them. Okay, so you have to roll 2 of these. And you have to get them to Doc Brown's house. Once you have all of them at Doc Brown's house, then you can start again, if you're in that vicinity and you roll correctly, moving this along. Okay, let's talk about another challenge. Biff can be challenged, can be knocked out. Can be knocked out by any character, but Marty is the best one to be knocked out, and that puts him out of the game for a while. Notice these cards right here, these power cards right here. See how they have a roll on each one of them, and it's a star one. Okay, so if I decide to use these, where's the blue ones? If I decide to use these in the Biff character, and I have to be next to the Biff character, so let's say I was here, and I said, well, I want to move up to 3 spaces to get the Biff, or let's say I'm here, I want to move up to 3 spaces. This would be a great example, right? I'm on George's house. I want to move up to 3 spaces to get the Biff. Well, I can flip this over, escort George to Lorraine's house, 2 spaces, move 1 there. Okay, I want to knock Biff out, so I use these little knockout cubes. And I flip those 2 over, because that's what I have to do in order to use them. That represents that I've used them. I roll, and I get 1 knockout, and then I get 1 power 1. Okay, so this represents Biff getting knocked out 1 time. Now, anytime you get a Biff card, like on a movement, like that, before Biff can move, he has to stand up first. So if I get 2 of them, he's knocked out, and then in order for him to move, he has to stand up and then move towards Lorraine and George. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so, but I already knocked him out once, and I got a lightning, which is a free one, okay? So I'm gonna take that as another knockout one. Now, this is where these little knockout discs come in. Because every time you get a knockout, you just place another one by him. And you can get up to 3 knockouts. Now, what does that mean? That means before Biff can move. So let's say somebody rolled a really bad hand. They just had one of these, and then they got a movement card with 2 Biffs. Before Biff can move, so I have to resolve these. So that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That goes away, and then that's 4. So now Biff stands up. So he had to go through all that before he can even move to get to George and Lorraine. That's one of the challenges. So that's a movement card. Now let's talk about, I think this will be the last thing we'll talk about. Well, actually it's not, is the opportunities. So you notice that we started with opportunities. There's 3 opportunity cards. Opportunities give you the chance to pick up additional power cards, which can be used. So you can pick up an additional power card like this one. If I win this opportunity, now not only do I get this extra power card to use, I get 2 more rolls if I want to use them. So how do you resolve the power cards? Well, right here at the top, it just basically shows you. You have to roll that or a wild card. So if you roll that or a wild card, you win that challenge, and then you get an additional move on your next turn. Okay, so once your opportunity card's done, you put that away and you get another opportunity card. Opportunity cards also give you the chance to pick up these item cards, right? These item cards, and they are also used in your favor too. So this item card, gives you the ability to pick up an extra power card, and it just will basically explain on there. So you have opportunity cards and you have item cards, and every time an opportunity card goes, you just place it off to the side and pick up another opportunity. So there's always an opportunity on the board. All right. Now, what about those trouble cards? Those trouble cards have to be resolved too, because they can interfere with what you want to do. And it shows you right there. Look, you got a row 1 love card. There can only be one trouble card on the board at a time. So if your turn tracker, see how we're here on this turn tracker right here? If we move 2 spaces, let's just say because we're resolving this, and there's another level 2, well, I just put this back underneath here, and I do a level 2, and it'll explain itself. It'll explain where it goes and all that stuff, and what you have to do and how it interferes with you, because it does interfere with you. We had one time where it said that Biff always had to move all the way to Lorraine. So you want to resolve those if you can. So those are, they cause problems. So if you're trying to get Lorraine and George together, and one of the trouble cards said, I rolled a Biff, and then it didn't matter where Biff was on the board, he always came to Lorraine and George. So you got to resolve these trouble cards. They are truly trouble. All right, so I think the last thing that we need to know after that is how these get turned over. So if you look on your tracker, each one of these represent a turn. So let's just say I did a turn, then it goes to the next one. The next person has to resolve a movement card. So a movement card says, move Lorraine counterclockwise 3 spaces. So let's say she's here, so counterclockwise 1, 2, 3, and it has 1 Biff, so Biff's gonna move 1 space there. And then let's say we go to our next one, and they do their special stuff that I talked about. And then you see these right here, this picture right here. That means you have to check the love meter. This is the love meter right here. Now, if the love meter is up in this area at all, nothing happens. But if it says check the love meter and it's not in that area, anywhere not in that area, you have to turn one of these over. And if you ever turn all of them over before we're at the clock tower, or and before you get to here, you lose the game. Everybody loses the game. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's how you resolve those. Now, if you're ever in the minus section and it says check the love meter, and they're not at least on the board somewhere, you have to turn 2 cards over. Not good at all. And what makes it even worse is if you look up here at this part of the tracker right here, see how it says two times? That means that if it was down here in this -1 and I was up at that meter right there, I'd have to turn 4 of them over. Okay, if it was up here, I'd have to turn 2 of them over. If it's up here, you ignore it. You ignore it. They're safe. So you want to get them in love. You want to get all your tiles for the car here. You want to get the car down to Doc Brown's house. It's got to stay there until you get all 3 tiles. Then you've got to get them all the way to here before you reach that right there. And then these have to be, at least one of them has to be face up. And if it's not face up, well, you've lost the game. And this will tell you what level you're on. And then you get extra things by, do Biff's homework. So that's a reward. So if you roll that, then you get an extra power card, and then that'll give you extra chances. Now, the most power cards you can ever have on the board, this is another rule, is 8 power cards. If you get another power card, you just discard one of them. Discard whatever one you don't want. So that's how the game is played. I hope that's clear enough. Now, I know that it seems a little complicated, but actually it's pretty easy. If you just start playing the game and you start going through it, it becomes fairly easy. The instructions are fairly easy, and the movement cards explain themselves, and the opportunity cards explain themselves. So all you really have to do is read. The only thing you really have to do is move these spaces up each turn, and then decide what you're going to do during your turn on your power cards. And then it goes to the next person. and it's continually changing because opportunities continually change, the trouble level continually change, and it's actually a lot of fun. All right, so join us for our other video on the review of the game. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. In the description box below, you will find a link to buy this game and also a link to buy me a coffee. And as always, if there's something I miss, read the rules for yourself. So with that said, I'll see you next time on another edition of Board Game Addict.